Whenever you notice a limiting belief, so you hear your thoughts, you got to pay attention to your thoughts. And if your thought says, I can't, like I can't afford it, or I'm not old enough, or I don't have enough skills, turn it into a question with the opposite. So I can't afford it becomes, how can I afford it? I'm not old enough becomes, how can I use my youth as an advantage? I don't have the skills becomes, how can I acquire the skills? And those questions lead to answers, whereas the beliefs shut down the possibilities. So you take that limiting belief and you turn it into an expansive question, and then you create possibility.
All right, we've got an awesome show coming your way with Majeed Mogharreban, Majeed like magic. And this has been actually a really cool show. I've really enjoyed it. It was really different, actually. We've talked about a lot of esoteric kind of topics and really powerful paradigm shifts that he's been going through and how you can have them as well. But I'm going to leave that up to the show. Before we jump in, though, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe for more, because there's a lot coming your way. And when it comes to the comment, more specifically, what I want you to do is comment a takeaway you're going to take action on, because none of this knowledge is worth anything without action. But hey, without further ado, let's get into the show. Hello and welcome. I'm Oliver Wolf from the Wolf Syndicate Coaching, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Ultimate Closer Show, where I take awesome closers out of their productive days to invest their time into you. Together, we'll talk about sales theories, philosophies, as well as actionable strategies, tips, and methods to make sure that you're closing more deals and winning at life. And so today on our show, we have another special guest. His name is Majeed like magic Mogharreban, and I'll have to let him do his hand thing because I'm sure he's mastered it by now. Majeed is the founder of the Expert Speaker Institute. And to tell you a little bit about him, he's a world-traveling dad and professional speaker. Majeed Mogharreban will help you go from the best-kept secret to the go-to person in your field. You have a story that needs to be heard so that people will discover you and hire you. Majeed will help you tell that story and get your message in front of your ideal clients. Majeed is the #1 rated instructor in the world at Learning Tree International out of 721 other instructors. He is a 2-time international best-selling author and TEDx speaker. Majeed has spoken at the United Nations twice and has worked privately with celebrities, politicians, an Olympic gold medal winner, CEOs, and top entrepreneurs. His mission is to help you tell your story on stage to create a greater impact, because your story has the power to change the world. Now, on a more personal level, I've known Majeed for a few years now. Actually, it's almost like, 3-4 years, I think, something like that. And from a personal level, one of the things that I really appreciate about Majeed is how he has really stepped into something that I've begun to learn about, which is leading with authenticity. And he's very honest, very transparent. He'll do content, video content, all this kind of stuff. And he's just very much telling the truth of what he sees in a way that helps others. And so I really appreciate that. And it's something that I'm really excited to dive into on this episode. I think you guys are gonna get a lot of golden nuggets. I know that I will. I've got my notebook ready, and I hope you do too. So welcome to the show, Majeed.
Thank you.
Yes. So Majeed, we might as well start off with something that I think everyone would love to know is, where are you right now?
I'm in Costa Rica. We're here for 7 weeks. And for the last 3 years, we've been traveling 2 months a year, or 2 months in the winter, 3 months. We do 2 months in the winter, 1 month in the summer. And I like to say I live to travel. And I built my business so that I could be in location independent and bring my kids along, and all the naysayers who said you couldn't have kids and travel, trying to prove them wrong. So here in Costa Rica, yesterday I had a speaking engagement to an audience full of doctors in Toronto, and right after that closed my laptop and went to a volcano in a rainforest. So it's an incredible world we live in, where we can speak to a webcam or camera anywhere in the world, and I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm. Totally, man. And there's a few key things you already just said there, the motivation of naysayers. That's such a powerful one, right? Using that, but I think also making sure it doesn't, weigh on you too much as well. And then just the power of modern technology. I think there's so many people out there that they have an idea of what's available, but really aren't like fully capitalizing on it. And you're someone who I know uses a whole bunch of different softwares. You're the guy like, send the Calendly link, let's do this, like use that, use this. Like, I'm really excited to sort of dive into those kinds of things as well. But before we get into the good side of things, I would love to go right to something, I guess we could say deep or whatever, which is, what's been the biggest failure you've had? How did you get through it? And what would be the lesson you would share with others about it?
The biggest failure I had actually came relatively recently, within the last year, which is I sold something that my clients wanted that I could not deliver. And essentially, I sold someone else's promise. I sold someone else's service, essentially. And when it came to them delivering, the delivery wasn't there. And so then I had dissatisfied clients. And so instead of sort of noticing that early and apologizing, I started throwing more money at it. Oh, I'm going to hire someone else to deliver that service. Oh, I'm going to hire 3 more people to deliver that service. And then I woke up one morning and I said, this is not my zone of genius. This is not where I want to stake my name and reputation. And so I made it right by refunding everybody entirely. The problem with that was I had spent most of the money that I had gotten from the sale. So I put myself in a pretty significant amount of debt. And my mindset at the time led me to believe that means I'm a failure. And that means my business is a failure. And so I went on a bit of a downward spiral of my confidence. So while that is a weakness to take that risk, it's also my strength. I recognize that I'm willing to take risks where others would say, I wouldn't do that. That's too risky. And I did that. So, it's common. Your strength is your weakness and your weakness is your strength. So that's the double-edged sword of my risk taking.
Yes. Actually, I love that too, that you said that, because I've definitely seen this, and it's been a personal conflict as well as the duality of all things, right? Like you said, your gift can become your curse. And that's something that a lot of people, they'll put too much weight on the curse side of it and end up going down that downward spiral. Whereas, you always have to look at the curse and ask for the dual side of it. Is like, well, out of this curse, what is the gift that I can bring to the world and serve others, serve myself, serve my family, my loved ones, and all that. So, okay, great. So I can definitely relate to that. I've had a similar experience, and it's tough, right? Because you've given your word, you've committed, you've set an expectation, and any entrepreneur worth their skin, one of the most important things is integrity, right? And so I guess what was it that finally triggered for you that, like, I got to stop this, I got to make this right? Like, what kind of triggered for you?
I actually had an image of a guy pushing a boulder up a mountain. Okay. And I was the guy. All right. And I was like, okay, I've got 2 decisions here. I could either let go of this boulder and allow it to roll back down the hill, or I can keep pushing until I get it over the mountain. And for me, the specifics of that was I was selling a service where we were doing speaker agency work for our clients, meaning that we were pitching them to conferences to get them speaking engagements. I work with speakers. And prior to this service, my work was coaching those speakers how to do it. And my clients were asking me, can you just do it for me? And so I sold that service of, yes, I can just do it for you, but I wasn't able to deliver it at the level of the standard of excellence that I prefer. So I asked myself, do I want to push this boulder up the hill and become a world-class speaking agency? Or is that something that I might do later and certainly not now? And so I decided that it's something that I might do later, but certainly not now. And the general principle here actually can be found in a brilliant book by Seth Godin called The Dip. And the dip is this concept that says, if you want to be world-class, I see we just skipped a beat on our internet connection, so I'm going to say it again.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Seth Godin wrote a book called The Dip. And The Dip says, if you want to be world-class, you're going to go through a valley of despair, of struggle, of the hard work, the unglamorous work, and the few survivors who get to the other side of the dip are in the rare air of world class. And if you're not willing to go through the dip, the best strategy is to quit. Quit before you start is the best strategy. Quitting in the middle is the worst strategy. So I actually did the quitting in the middle thing, because I started it, I worked at it, I spent a lot of money at it, and then I quit. And so had I had the foresight of how hard it was going to be, I would have not started in the first place. However, entrepreneurs are often blind to this dip, which is what gives us the ability to start. Because while many of the naysayers will say that'll be hard, that'll be complicated, that'll be expensive, us entrepreneurs say it'll be easy, it'll be fun, I could do that. And so we start, and then it takes the grit of getting through the hard years or months or whatever it is until being on the other side. And you're in rare company that you've actually gone through all the challenges. So I was in the middle of the dip, and I had to ask myself, am I going to get through this dip or am I going to quit? And I decided to quit, and it was the right decision at the time.
And you know what? I like that. I like that we're actually talking about. So there's layers of consciousness, right? Layers of self-awareness, especially when it comes to like entrepreneurship. I think there's like your initial entrepreneur who's one of the biggest humps they need to get over is like how to take action, right? And so when you're in that state of awareness, state of consciousness, to think about quitting is like the worst thing in the world. It's like, never quit. You know, you only failed because you quit, and it's never failure until you quit. Like quit gets a lot of bad rap, right? It's in this first layer of sort of, again, entrepreneurial self-awareness. But I feel like once you do know how to master yourself and your ability to say, hey, this needs to get done, therefore I'm going to take action. It's just like A equals B, like done. Then we start to reobserve quitting. Quitting becomes a new thing where it's actually can be a asset, right? Which is sort of what you're saying. It's like, I mean, it's one of the things you're saying is like knowing when to quit can be, again, one of the most powerful and important assets and decisions you make. And as you become stronger as an entrepreneur and stronger at knowing that some action is not as, you know, beneficial or useful to you as others, you become better at knowing when to quit before it actually begins. And so I love that. I love that you said that. And I think it's really important for whoever's listening that quitting is not always failure. It can literally be a sign of success, because had you gone any further, you would have gone deeper into failure. So that's challenging though at the same time too, to like, how do you know when is it, am I quitting out of fear and out of simply, again, like taking a shortcut, taking an easy way out? Or is this truly a fair quit? I don't know if you have the answer to this, but I'd love to ask you, do you have a general sort of idea of like, how do you know if it's you're fearing out or you're actually successfully quitting?
Yeah. Okay. So there's quitting and there's saying no. And saying no is quitting before you even started. And most entrepreneurs will get the advice, focus, the fewest number of things, focus, specialize. And what focus looks like in practice is saying no to things before you start them and quitting things that are not aligned to the focus. It is when there is no focus that you don't know what to say no to and you don't know what to quit. So that is a lack of vision.
Yes, lack of clarity.
So when you don't have clarity of where you want to go, everything seems like it could help, it could be good, and we are blessed and cursed with abundant optimism and creativity as entrepreneurs. So that means we start a lot of stuff. And so entrepreneurs, more than the average people, need to practice saying no and quitting when they're in the middle of something that does not follow the vision. So it's going back to where are we going with this thing? And I've got a 3-step model for that. So step 1 is design your ultimate lifestyle. What do you want your days to look like? Where do you want to live? What do you want your work to look like? What do you want your life to look like? Step 1, ultimate lifestyle. Step 2, business model. Business model allows you to generate value for the world in the way that is your zone of genius. Business model, step 2. Step 3 is ideal client. An ideal client allows you to be impacting the people who you feel called to serve, such that when you're finished with a day of working with those people, you feel more energized and more in love with your business than you did before you were doing the work. Ideal lifestyle, ideal business model, ideal client. When you have those three things clear, it becomes a lot easier to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. But to answer your question about how do I know if this is me just being a chicken and just quitting because it's hard, or how do I know if it's quitting because it's the right thing? So one of my favorite ways to determine what is the highest value activity for me to do is to ask myself, what am I resisting doing that I know I should be doing? What am I resisting? Yes. Where's that fear? And I feel it in my belly. Where's that fear? That's the thing I need to do. That's the hill I need to take.
Have you read the book, The War of Art, by any chance?
I've read The Work by Stephen Pressfield, but haven't read The War of Art.
For whoever's listening, and for you, especially because you're literally like keywording the word resistance, you need to pick up The War of Art. It talks all about, again, resistance, how to overcome it. And what's cool about it is, unlike your typical entrepreneurial book that's always speaking from a perspective of business, this guy's actually speaking from the perspective of being an artist, for which that art can be your business. And so it's really interesting, his sort of.
And I don't know about you, Oliver. I consider myself an artist.
Yes.
I produce art. I think we're creating a work of art right now, this content. And The Work by Stephen Pressfield starts with a quote that says, every morning we wake up to slay the dragon, and that dragon is called resistance. Yeah. So, I don't know that we always have the level of clarity that we wish we had in the moment of deciding, should I quit or should I move forward? In hindsight, it becomes more clear. But I think the question is this something that I'm resisting, or is this a distraction? And if you're resisting it, it's probably the way. The obstacle is the way. But if it's a distraction, that means you're probably engaged in that because it's giving you some good feelings. And it's allowing you to distract yourself from that which you are resisting.
Yes, it's serving you in some sort of potentially like a short-term way, for which is not in alignment with, again, the long-term dream, vision, lifestyle, like you said, the 3-step model and such. Because that's the thing, right? Like everything that we do still serves us in a way. It's just, does it serve us in the way we want it to? Is it really serving us in the way our ultimate selves wants us to be served, sort of thing? So that's very cool. Now, you said that 3-step model, what's the title to it? Like what exactly is it? You gave us the 3 steps, but what's the model itself?
This is just a process that I take my clients through. I wrote 2 books on this topic. One is called Winning at Life. And the second one is called The Small Business Trap. And Winning at Life is a process of designing your ultimate lifestyle. It has nothing to do with business. The Small Business Trap is the process of designing your ultimate business. So that's step 1 and step 2. And the third book I wrote is called Expert Speaker, which is about creating the ultimate message for that one ideal client. So I guess those 3 books do follow those 3 steps of the model. The reason it's in that process is, what I found is that whenever you have a business, that goals are, you have to have goals set such that the more you achieve those goals, the better your life gets. Because if you start having a business whose goals where the more you achieve those goals, the worse your life gets.
Or the more workload comes on. Yes, self-sabotage,
Because it's like, if I increase my sales, I have to work more. Well, I don't want to work more. I don't want to have a harder life, so I'm not going to increase my sales. You want to design a business where the more you sell, the less you work, or the more you sell, the easier your life and your business is. And so that's by design.
I love that. And actually, I'm going to like really put a cherry on top of that and say, because I'm sure obviously people are asking themselves like, oh, well, that's nice to say, but that's what you do, like, the classic sort of resistance. And what I'd invite people to start to do, and ask yourselves this like at least once a day. And this is what's important, right? Whenever you hear an answer for which you would like to have as an answer to your life, begin asking yourself the question to discover what that answer would be for your life. So for example, in this case, the question might be something like, how can I design my business such that when sales increase, workload goes down, right? Something like that. And begin asking yourself that over and over and over again. And your mind will begin to seek the answers, create the answers, manifest the answers through the connections that you make, the work that you do, and the things that you find. So I think that's really important. Again, like I love that. I'm actually starting to go towards that myself because I do one-on-one sales coaching. So for me, when I sell, I do work more. And you know, and I love serving the one-on-one. It's super powerful, super transformative. It gets results. But as you said, it costs me more time every time I make a sale. And so I'm moving into creating this online course where I can leverage, you know, these newer technologies, which we were kind of talking about earlier, to allow me to increase sales, but actually, you know, again, increase my lifestyle, but not actually necessarily increase my work in the way. So love that you said that. Again, for everyone watching, to reiterate, ask yourself the right question to discover that answer for yourself. Cool. Now, one thing that I really want to dive into, because we talked a little bit before we launched the episode, you're talking about these sort of paradigm shifts that you're having with your business. And I think that it's beginning to become a very slowly, but it's becoming a bit of a global paradigm shift in terms of how to approach work and such. And you've been like really experiencing it. So I would love to hear about it. What is this paradigm shift you're going through? How can people maybe at least begin to consider it? Because so many people are stuck in the current paradigm of business and entrepreneurship and all that. How can people maybe start to move into this new paradigm shift if they so desire?
Okay, so the paradigm shift is work less, make more money, which is kind of the promise of every book after the 4-hour work week and every productivity guru: work less, make more money. And how I've experienced that here in Costa Rica is whenever I do these 2 months away with my family, I always commit to working half time. So I'm 20 hours a week. This time I experimented with 4 days a week instead of 5. And I've made more money since being here in Costa Rica than I had in the 5 months prior. And I attribute that to a couple different things. I'm getting massages on the beach like twice a week because
that helps.
I'm a sucker for a $30 hour-long massage on the beach, which will be heading to right after this call. I'm in the beach, like I'm in the ocean every day, multiple times, because it's right across the street. Getting a lot of sun, getting a lot of play, and not stressing. And so that is, I believe, making me a lot more effective on my sales calls, where I'm just like, hey, whether I close this deal or not, I'm about to head to the beach. So like, I'm good, you know? So I'm just in a really good headspace. Now, how do I replicate that back at home? More exercise, because I'm getting more exercise here. More sunshine, because I'm getting more sunshine here. I'm eating a lot of natural foods. Like I'm eating good foods here. So I'm just treating myself really well. And I think that's raising my vibration, if I can use that language. So there's
the
that.
Emergent language is beautiful.
Yeah. There's another thing that is a really powerful concept that one of my clients just introduced me to, Jesse Johnson, 7-figure sales coach. And she says, this is the real definition of financial freedom. And I've really kind of owned this. And prior to this definition, I thought financial freedom was having some portfolio that's producing some passive dividend income that you can live off the passive income. And that's what I consider financial freedom, until I got her definition, which is, look, you can have that portfolio. The stock market could crash. You could lose all that money and still be financially free, because you have skills that will always be in demand and you can always generate income. And I took on that definition, and I believe it for myself. And I go, yeah, if the internet went away tomorrow, if a law was passed that said I can't run the business that I'm running today, I would still be financially free, in the sense that I trust my skills. It's like the bird who doesn't worry about the branch breaking because it trusts its wings ability to fly. And I have that, and I found that now. And that's been a real paradigm shift, which is like, I trust my ability to produce and create value in excess of the value I receive indefinitely. So those have been my paradigm shifts, that I can make more by working less, by taking good care of myself, by playing, by vibrating, by being in a high vibe, and that I have financial freedom, even though I don't have the nest egg portfolio that's generating all the passive income that I live on. I have financial freedom because I trust my skills.
Very cool. Cool. So these are two very powerful paradigm shifts. It creates, again, one of the key words you said that I want to like really reemerge is, add play. And it's funny, the word play, and I actually used it, I think, yesterday with a friend of mine. And when I used the word play, they kind of laughed at it in a way that I could tell they're kind of mocking the word. And I think it's because we see play as this childish thing, right? And you know what? I'd love to say that, like, fuck yeah, it is a childish thing. Let's bring some more child energy into our lives. Because through this play, through this having fun with what it is we do, and through thinking of what we do day to day as things we get to do, not things we have to do, and things we get to do and have fun with and play with, we bring a whole new energy both to ourselves and to everyone that we come in contact with. And that playful energy, because let me ask you, when you see kids playing, how do you feel? Right? You intuitively feel good. You're like, oh, look at that. That looks like so much fun. Look at how much fun they're having. They're so innocent. I wish I could be that again, right? This like, then it starts going a little dark. And it's like, you 100% still can be. And in being that playful energy, you can influence others the same way those kids influence you. And so I really wanted to drive that home and invite everybody to play a little at work, with your friends, with your employees, with your clients. Like, seriously, have fun with your clients, play with your clients. And so, yeah, so that I'm glad you brought up. Huge paradigm shift, super important. And then the other one, of course. So now what I'd love to ask you is, you had these paradigm shifts. How can others maybe begin to, like I said earlier, start to move into these for themselves? Maybe a little bit of as practical as it can be, that someone else can embrace these paradigm shifts if they desire.
Well, I'm going to speak from my own experience and answer the question with one word, which is travel.
Nice.
I do have a two-step model for traveling the world. Step one is book the flight, and step two is figure out everything else later. And step two is optional. All you got to do is book the flight. Mm-hmm. You can book a round trip or you could book a one-way, but the ROI on travel is exponential. It creates new connections. It creates new ideas. It creates new energy. It requires you to reevaluate your life and your environment. And it is the most powerful, most potent, transformative experience I've ever invested in. Now, I use the word invest because I expect a return on my investment. And I use the word travel, not vacation.
Yes.
Because vacation is, for a lot of people, switch off your brain, drink pina coladas until you have a hangover, and escape reality and life. Travel, to me, is about exploring not just the country or the place where you are in, but exploring your own self and your own beliefs. And you get at the question. Now, I have a blessing and a curse, which is I ask myself the question, what is my purpose in life? What is the ultimate life for me? I ask myself that question a lot. I wrote a book on it, wrote 2 books on it. And I explore that question at a deeper level while I'm traveling.
Very cool. I love that, resonate with that so well. And in fact, I remember that 2-step process as it's something that helped me go through my own extremely powerful, transformative traveling to Costa Rica, where I made the decision. I committed to a $6,000 travel sort of mentorship, so on and so forth, with Superhero Academy and Mark Angelo, and plus the flight costs. So it was another $600 or whatever dollars. And I could not afford that. Like I could not afford that whatsoever. But by making that decision, it then forced me in that position of like, okay, well, shit, it's a commitment now. I gotta make this happen. I gotta make it work. And so I did it. And in fact, what it did is that, amongst a few other things, but really that being the primary motivation, led to me going from about, maybe 1 client and $3,000 or so sold in my coaching business to over like maybe 6 months or so to selling $25,000 and basically blowing up my business in a single month, right? So for me, that was huge, and it was such the motivation coming from that trip. So hugely advocate for that. If you're watching this and you're considering traveling, like he said, buy the freaking ticket. And even beyond that, I want to again reiterate, because this even resonates with something that I'm moving towards as an experience, is I'm going to be, and this is probably, if anything, my announcement right now, I'm going to be launching a mastermind retreat, which will be at an all-inclusive resort. And it's very intentional in the sense that by going to an all-inclusive resort, we no longer have to think about cooking. We no longer have to think about driving around to the grocery store. We don't have to think about driving to the gym because it's on site. All these things save us time. And so if you don't see it in a state of vacationing, like you said, more from a state of traveling, or what I like to call a bizcation, is you use those hours you save as productive hours. And by doing so, it inherently pays for the trip, right? Because those hours you save, you would have spent at home, you're now investing into your business. So as long as you're worth, I don't know, $75 an hour, like at least, then those hours that you save and put into productive energy pay for the trip. Right. Totally. And then, so this is something that I'm moving towards. I'm going to be setting up and probably having in July is when I'm going to do this. And it's going to be like 10 people or something, super intensive, powerful container, all that kind of stuff. So I love that you're saying that. It's totally what I'm going towards and trying to influence people to do more of. So yes.
Well, Oliver, congratulations on your big month. You stretched yourself, and stretching creates expansion. Mm-hmm. And love your idea. See, one of my ideas, I fell in love with travel at an early age. 16 years old, I did an exchange in Argentina, stayed with a family in Argentina, and I got back and I was like, I just want to keep doing that as much as possible. So the question evolved from, how can I travel more? And the answer to that question was, well, you need time and money. You need time and money, right? Well, sometimes you have time, but you don't have money. And sometimes you have money, but you don't have time. So how do I travel more became, how do I get paid to travel? And the answer to how do I get paid to travel birthed my motivational speaking business, because I thought, oh, well, if I can just get a conference to pay for my flights and hotel and give me money, then I'm technically getting paid to travel. This will be great. And now the question has expanded a little bit further, which is, how do I go to cool places and come back with more money? Which has led me to the online business, which has led me to having a location independent business that, as long as I'm making money while I'm traveling, it makes sense in my head. Because most people, when they're on vacation or when they're traveling, they have to save up a bunch of money, take time off, spend all that money, and then come back broke and having to start saving again, right? So how do I get paid to travel, or how do I come back with more money than I left with? And for those of you who are listening to this and feel like, yeah, it's nice for these guys, they're making $20,000 a month and they can afford this stuff, I want to give you an opportunity to travel that will also create a lot more innovative thinking and a lot of creative thinking, which is, how can you travel for really, really cheap? And when you get out of the country and you see some of these travelers and some of these backpackers, I just met this guy on the beach yesterday morning, pays $200 a month rent. He fills his days with gardening and bird watching and never eats out. And, imagine $200 a month rent, and he probably eats from his own garden. Like, he's living lean and he is winning at life from my definition. Like, he's like living the dream. Now, of course, hitchhiking. If you haven't done hitchhiking, it is good fun. If you live in North America, the assumption is that someone's going to murder you. In fact, I hitchhiked to the airport the other day, Oliver. I don't know if you there was this crazy storm in the middle of February where I had a 7 a.m. flight. Mm-hmm. And in the morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, I called the taxi company in Elmer where I live. And they were like, no taxis. There are no taxis because there's just too much snow. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to drive myself. I pull out of the driveway. I start driving down the road. My car gets stuck in the middle of the road. I go back inside. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I wake up my wife. I say, I'm really sorry. I have to hitchhike to the airport and I'm leaving our car in the middle of the road. I'm sorry. I got to go. And so I hitchhike.
You got a good wife when she's cool with that.
Yeah. She wasn't entirely cool with it, but she is an amazing wife. And yeah, she handled it. She got the neighbor to push it out and I couldn't get it out. So I hitchhike and this guy stops. I'm like trying to stop. I'm standing in the middle of the road, stopping cars, and they're driving by me and they're swerving past me. And one of them rolls down the window. I ask, can I get a ride? He's like zooms away. And finally someone stops and I said, can you give me a ride to the airport? He says, you're not going to kill me, are you? This is like North America's association to hitchhiking, but I highly recommend hitchhiking as a cultural experience. And around most of the rest of the world, it's like just no big deal at all.
Standard.
So you don't have to hitchhike, but like, a bus ticket, you can get a bus ticket from where you are to where you want to be for like 20, 30, 40 bucks. You don't need to go to another country. Go to another place And you also don't need to spend money on accommodation. There is a website that if you are looking to travel cheap, this website is going to be your savior. It's called couchsurfing.com. Couchsurfing.com is a network of people who are willing to have you stay at their house for free. If you want to pay a little bit of money, there's hostels. And hostels, like it's often there's bunk beds and there's like 20 bunk beds in a room and it's like $10 a night. But literally stay in other people's houses for free. And I love it because you meet the kindest, most generous people and you get a real experience of a country. Whereas, you know, if you stay at the Hilton Garden Inn in this country or that country, you're not really seeing much of the country. But stay in someone's house for free. So hitchhiking plus couch surfing, you do not need to spend money to travel.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Very cool. Cool. So we're pretty much going to be at the end of the episode here. One thing I wanted to like drive home that you were saying during that time is, and actually you were indirectly saying it, is you saying like, you know, I was asking myself this question, then I asked myself this question, then I asked myself this question. So we mentioned this earlier, but again, I really want to reiterate, it's all about the questions you're asking yourself. That's all it is. You know, you ask yourself like, how can I make sure that I travel? Well, I need money and time. Well, how can I do that? Boom, here's my idea. So people like, if there's one thing that's going to be a big takeaway here, it's just what questions are you asking yourself on a day-to-day basis? And are they empowering? And are they leading you to that ultimate lifestyle that you want? And so that's going to be huge. But here we are, end of the episode. So Majeed, if someone wants to find you or wants to know more about the Expert Speaker Institute, where can they go? What's the best way to do so?
Expertspeaker.com. They can email me at Majeed, M-A-J-E-E-D, at expertspeaker.com. And let me just expand on that last point you made, Oliver, about asking
Please.
questions.
Yes.
Whenever you notice a limiting belief, so you hear your thoughts, you got to pay attention to your thoughts. And if your thought says, I can't, like I can't afford it, or I'm not old enough, or I don't have enough skills, turn it into a question with the opposite. So I can't afford it becomes, how can I afford it? I'm not old enough becomes, how can I use my youth as an advantage? I don't have the skills becomes, how can I acquire the skills? And those questions lead to answers, whereas the beliefs shut down the possibilities. So you take that limiting belief and you turn it into an expansive question, and then you create possibility.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you very much for chiming that in. Awesome. So to recap the episode.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes. So to recap the episode on this episode of the Ultimate Closer Show, we had the epic privilege to dig into some sales theories and philosophies, but really just a much more general conversation about how you want to show up as a powerful entrepreneur and as a powerful human being. But more specifically, referring to some of the stuff we went to today, we talked about knowing when you're not in your genius is super important, getting through the valley of despair to become world-class. We talked about knowing how to quit successfully, right? From a space of like quitting that this is going to help you to quit. The 3-step model to designing your ultimate lifestyle, a paradigm shift of how to run your business, well, 2 paradigm shifts actually, how to travel the world like a boss or really affordably, right? Doing it from a space of almost for free. And then finally, powerful questions to be asking yourself. And again, we really took the end of this episode to drive that home. So I hope you stuck over to this point as well. And so really by the time this episode is released, it'll be the beginning of the second quarter of 2019. And so I've got one question for you. If you do exactly what you did in the first quarter, would you achieve your sales goal for the year? And so if you would, then I'll bet it's because you learned from videos like this one and you put them into action. Now, if you wouldn't, then it's time to take drastic action. And I invite you to take action on connecting with people like myself and Majeed, who can help you make sure that you hit your goals. So once again, Majeed, thank you so much for being on the show. And until next time, my friends, I wish you all an abundance you desire.